Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Tyler Evans from Arete Chiropractic, and today we are coming at you live with the Research Moment. This week we are reviewing a paper titled Traumatic Brain Injury and Intestinal Dysfunction Uncovering the Neuroenteric Axis, as well as a little backup paper to some of the ideas that are in this first paper. And this first one here, the traumatic brain injury paper, that was published in 2009, and they made some breakout ideas in that paper that then lots of people have followed up. This paper here, the second one I just want to follow up with, is called The Gut-Brain Axis: Interactions Between Enteric Microbiota, Central and Enteric Nervous Systems, and this paper was published in 2015. So two really great papers, and the reason I'm talking about this is just because in the last couple of weeks I've had a handful of people that have brought up the fact that their intestinal issues changed, or their stomach problems changed, or their heart rate changed after an adjustment to the upper neck. Now, why would that be? Why would there be an interaction between the neck and the internal organs, being the heart, the small intestine, the large intestine, the stomach, the spleen, the pancreas, the kidneys, all the internal stuff? Well, there's a couple of things there. Number one is that when you hit your head, you can't hit your head without hurting your neck. And there are a couple of pieces to that are very important to understand. One is that there are two main drivers for information. Well, there's two pathways or two directions that information can go in the body between the brain and the gut. One is from the brain down to the gut via the kind of more basic standard nerve connections that most people would think of. One of those is the vagus nerve. So that's this guy right here. So the vagus nerve is the parasympathetic wanderer of the brain stem that makes its way all the way down the spine through the gut to the heart, the lungs, the stomach here, the liver, the kidneys, the adrenals, the intestines, and that comes all the way from the brainstem right up here, and that's cranial nerve 10. So it starts out way up high, and it makes its way all the way down into all of the organs down here. So that nerve connection is very, very important because it's the brakes for all the internal functions. Now, what we know is that C1 and the upper neck is directly right here, right in front of, or right behind the vagus nerve, which comes out right in front of C1. So it literally almost lays right in front of C1. And so if C1 is locked out of position in a head or neck injury, which happens quite often in patients that we see, then that vagus nerve can be affected. Well, what does that do? That can change how the gut works, that can change how the heart works, that can change how the kidneys work, that can change how the liver works. And in this paper here, Traumatic Brain Injury and Intestinal Dysfunction Uncovering the Neuroenteric Axis, they're talking about the head injury, head or neck injury, right? That leads to intestinal dysfunction, and the neuroenteric axis, meaning brain-gut axis. And so really cool here. A couple of things that they state about the brain-gut axis is that TBI is a major medical problem in the United States, costing over $4 billion annually in healthcare costs and loss of productivity. And this is back in 2009, and I'm sure that number just keeps rising. What is becoming increasingly apparent are the systemic physiological effects following traumatic brain injury. So when you hit your head or your neck, it affects your whole body, because your brain controls your body, and it does so through your spine, but that upper neck, it is a locking mechanism, a locking point for all the nerve flow down to the body. So you know, we're an upper cervical chiropractic office. We want to describe why the neck might be connected. They're just saying that the head injuries immediately after what they did was they focused on head injuries, head and neck injuries, brain injuries, and then how it can affect the guts and the internal function. And they noticed that within 2 hours at a minimum, at an average 6 hours, and the peak was 24 hours, there were internal epithelial changes in the intestinal lining. So this is a normal gut. So this is the normal patient. This was done on mice, but this is the normal, the sham experiment where nothing happened. And then this is where they had a 250 gram, which is a half a pound weight. They hit the mice on the head and from 2 centimeters, so it was a very small drop, but it was enough to cause traumatic brain injury to where these mice, their internal linings of their guts immediately started to break down within 2 hours at a minimum, 6 hours kind of on average, and then 24 hours at the maximum peak. So almost immediately after hitting their head, they started to notice dysfunction in the gut, and they say that possibly in this paper it's due to changes in gap junctions and how the gap junctions in the gut work, and they're just proteins, and as soon as the brain gut axis is distracted or is changed, then the hormones and all of the nerve signals that are constantly keeping that gut clean and healthy and working properly, they start to break down. That communication process starts to break down. We talk about that all the time in our practice, how the brain and the gut and all the internal organs have to talk to the brain back and forth all the time. And if those nerve signals aren't there because of possibly a blockage in the upper neck, then the body starts to get sick. And this is literally a picture of that problem. It's normal, healthy gut, and this is changes, almost immediately after a head or neck injury. And so, that's just a perfect example. But then in this paper here, the gut-brain axis interactions between enteric microbiota, central and enteric nervous systems. They talk about how the gut-brain axis consists of bidirectional communication between the central and the enteric nervous system, linking emotional and cognitive centers of the brain with peripheral intestinal functions. And this is a great picture of what we're talking about. So this picture here looks kind of involved, but basically the idea is that we have the brain up here, and we have all of these chemical hormonal pathways that come down and monitor and moderate how the lining of the gut is maintained and functions. And so vice versa, right? So, if the gut is affected, it can affect the brain, and if the brain's affected, it can affect the gut. So we're just outlining why there might be a connection there, and we're just touching on two very small issues, or two very, very obvious small parts of the deal, which are the brain stem controls the body. Okay, that cranial nerve, the vagus nerve, as well as the nucleus tractus solitarius, the NTS, which is in the brain stem. They go down and they talk to all of the internal functions of the body, and those functions talk back up to the brain. So that flow of information back and forth, it's got to be there. If it's not, the body starts to break down. So the vagus nerve and that hormonal connection between the body through the hormones, it's got to be there. And so we see that all the time where patients, they might come in for head or neck pain or migraines, and then a week later they talk about how their GERD changed, or how their intestinal pain changed, and this is part of why that might be the case. So if you know of someone suffering from gut issues and possibly lots of other internal dysfunction, this is a really good reason why getting your upper neck would be a good idea to get it checked to see if there's an upper neck misalignment in the upper cervical spine by an upper cervical chiropractor. That's what we focus on here at Arete Chiropractic. We are Blair upper cervical chiropractors. So if you have questions about cervical chiropractic care and how it can affect the internal function of the body, please give our office a call at 603-380-9184. And I hope you guys have a great day, have a great week, and we will talk to you soon. All right, take care.